Today's guest is Tess Cheng, who is a certified health and wellness coach who's passionate about supporting individuals on their health journeys by guiding them to build sustainable lifestyle habits. And Tess was also based in Miami, Florida, as coach busy professionals globally. She's also a speaker on topics of wellness and nutrition. So, Tess, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you? I'm excited to be on your show. Thank you
Good.
for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to have you on. I know we were kind of joking about it, like off air, but I'm like, everything that I've sent your way in terms of like, if you really want to prepare for this, like go do this. And you're like, you did all of the assessments ahead of time. You
Yeah.
listened to episodes. I'm like, A plus student, across the board in terms of prep. So I just want to make that note. But I'm excited to dive into because I understand like, okay, that you really want to be here. You want to dive into
Mm,
this. So yes, I want to acknowledge you for that. And yeah, I guess before we even get started, if there's anything contextually you would like to add to your bio or about kind of what you want to get out of this experience today, floor is yours for that, and then we can take it from there.
yes. I know that, with being an entrepreneur, one can really get quite overwhelmed with everything we want to do because, at the end of the day, we only have 24 hours, and I'm aware of that. But at the same time, I'm very passionate about what I do, how I can help people and the support I can give to them. And so I want to be more efficient with my time and with my energy. And that's partly where the frustration comes into it because I wake up with excitement. I'm happy to do what I have to do. So it's not like I'm overwhelmed and not enjoy it. I feel overwhelmed and anxious, but at the same time, I just love it. I'm really enjoying my work, and I think it's fabulous to feel that way. I just want to feel more in control, and as you say, more at peace.
Got it. Okay. So I know it's one of those things where you're always in a supportive role, right? Because you're a
Yeah.
coach yourself. I don't know if we know about my background, but I actually owned a brick and mortar weight loss center for 10 years before I
Mm,
moved into doing this. So I'm very familiar with like the impact that your work can make and how important it is and how like in many ways you're also the beacon for the people that you serve, right? Because like if I'm in
yeah.
owning like my own stuff, if I'm in my best self, it's kind of like I can be that light that other people can also like utilize just in their transformation of seeing a role model for that. So
Mhm.
110%, I agree with you on all of those fronts. And I know you mentioned being more in control. So
Yes.
just as like a broad definition, like how do you define control in this context for yourself?
Um, perhaps I can look at all the things I have to do on a daily basis, with more of a clear mind. So I'm not just thinking, oh, all of these things, I just have to do them all, but more structured and having and be more calm about it. Because ideas also come through all the time, even when I'm walking somewhere or going to gym, working out. And then I feel, I have all these ideas. And then at the same time, every day I have things to do, I have my clients to serve, but then these ideas, I have to fit them in as well. And so I just feel that they're all over the place.
And can you give me an example of some of these ideas?
For example, something like I was working with the marketing person who helps me with a lot of materials that we put together. And it was something I had to go through for her. And then I will wake up with an idea, thinking, oh, maybe we can do it like this, we can do it like that. And then I get distracted too, because then now I'm thinking about that. I have to get back to her on it. But then there are deadlines with other things. And I also feel with, for example, even with social media, with my followers, I feel an obligation to, make them feel that they're not being neglected because I've been taken away by other things that I'm concentrating on.
Got it. Okay. Um, so in that instance, is that really about being in control, or is it more about having like calmness, clarity and basically trust that what you need to do is the right thing to do to move yourself forward. Like, is that accurate for you, not accurate for you? How would you say that?
Yes, pretty accurate. Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, having more clarity, definitely.
Okay. So is the stress from I don't know what the right like next action is, or is the stress from they all feel like the right actions, so therefore I don't know like how can I possibly do it all?
Exactly. They all feel important.
Okay. Okay.
They seem to be, they're all these priorities.
Right. So if I have 10 priorities, I basically have none. Like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they all feel as important, as each other.
Okay. So in that case, who is the one that sets the priority?
Me.
Okay. So if you are the one that sets the priority and you're aware of that, and everything seems like a priority, what do you think is missing from that piece?
Having the clarity of what is really important and whereas something else is not, even though I want to do it, but it can be put aside.
Okay. So is it really clarity around what is the thing I should focus on, or is it clarity on what is the right thing to focus on?
The right thing to focus on.
Okay, perfect. And how would you define right thing?
Something I suppose either it has a deadline or something that would help my business go forward.
Okay. Well, I mean, a deadline's pretty easy. So either somebody
Yes.
else gives you a deadline, like if you have a contractor or whatever team member
Mhm.
that's like, I need this to execute X, Y, Z. So the deadline's pretty easy. Or you can give yourself a deadline.
Yes.
So why do you think deadline is something that was like a an obstacle to the right thing? Like, why do you think your brain went there?
Um, Maybe I'm not too disciplined about giving myself the deadline.
Okay. So do you have habits of being late or missing appointments or missing things with people or not getting deliverables done? Like, is that something that
No,
happens often for you? No.
no,
Okay.
not at all. No.
So not at all. And I know, like, I literally started this whole thing with a joke of like, yeah, you finished like literally everything that you could possibly finish to prepare for this. That doesn't sound to me like someone who has a discipline problem.
Well, I actually wanted to return the first assessment to you last week.
Hmm. Okay.
But I knew it would take 45 minutes. So I wanted to make sure I had the 45 minutes rather than having to do it for 20 minutes and then stop and go back to it. It took me a whole week to find the time to do the assessment. And according to me, it was not so successful because my intention was to have done it much earlier.
Okay. So me as the receiver of this stuff literally
Mm.
had zero issues with it. I was actually celebrating you for getting it all done. Okay,
Yeah.
but you as the giver
Yeah.
had this whole narrative in your head about how you
Mm.
are failing this experience, not getting it done on time, and essentially basically one long narrative around how what you are doing is not enough.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah.
So okay, so what's interesting about that for you? What's landing?
That you and I had completely different perspective of how it happened, that you were satisfied that I returned it in time, yet I was beating myself up for not having done it earlier.
Correct. So my lens of the events
Mm,
was great job. You did everything you needed to do prior to us getting on here. I know how much time I need to just look at the results and know exactly where I need to take you because I designed the whole thing that way. That's why
mm,
it's an assessment,
yeah.
right? Your lens is basically one of like I stressed over a whole week to get this thing done. I finally got it done, but it's crap and like a, whatever, like whatever the like I know I'm putting words in your mouth, but like
Yeah.
whatever the narrative was. Okay.
Yes.
So do you see how your brain's default lens through which you view
Mm,
circumstances is one of essentially what I'm doing is not good enough. Nothing I do is good enough. There's always
mm.
a lack or something else. So does that
Yes.
resonate with you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Is that something that's a new realization for you, or that's something you were aware of before?
Something I'm aware of. And I've been told about that before, that I should give myself more credit, for the things that I've accomplished.
Okay. And when you try to do that, what happens?
I feel good initially to give myself that reassurance, and then very easily I go back and will think, well, I could do better.
Okay. So kind of like a very short-lived high brought down
Mm,
to a baseline of I'm constantly in this loop of like looking at everything as I'm not actually good enough.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough. So that's the baseline that we're working with.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
And it comes, and I feel that way sometimes also with my coaching clients, and they get results. They get wonderful results. They might not get all the results they want immediately, but they are making progress. But of course, at the same time, I'm feeling, oh, but I'm not helping them get where they want to be sooner.
Hmm.
But then, but I understand, with habit change and all that, it takes time.
Hmm.
So I had to keep reminding myself that, and as we can only help them and give them guidance, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who have to do the work.
Correct. So basically, even when they are getting results, they're still not getting results fast enough, good enough, big enough.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of that lens is now pervasive in everything. Like even when realities explicitly tell, like for example, in the example we talked about with the assessment, like you didn't know what my perception was, right? Like it's not like I told you ahead of time this was great or not great.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like this example, like reality is literally telling you, hey, my clients, the thing that they pay me for, they are getting, right? And they
Yes.
are satisfied because they are getting it, right? And my lens still distorts that by basically taking the joy, the peace,
Mm-hmm.
all of it away from
Yeah.
them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if we now bring that back to what we initially started with, which is this whole overwhelm of getting things done, if the lens through which you view most of these things is I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, how do you think that's going to apply to your to-do list?
Or we would just add it up. Just as I said, because with my clients, I always feel I can do more for them.
Correct. So if it's true with clients who are actually getting results objectively, and it's good because with what you do, you can actually measure that, like inches and weight and whatever. So now you take that into something that objectively is actually never ending. Like your to-do list is never ending. It is like the horizon. Like, and by definition, you can never reach the horizon. So we are the only ones that can ever set the definition of enough,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
how could I possibly trust myself to set that definition when by default, the lens through which I'm going to view all of these decisions is I could do more, and
Yeah.
more is the only thing that would
Mhm.
actually be enough. Okay. And
Yeah.
then you extrapolate that further to the priorities. Well, if more is the only way that I will ever feel good enough, then everything is going to be a priority because that's the only way that I could ever achieve good enough. Yet
Mhm.
the thing that I'm trying to achieve is actually impossible.
Yes.
So, what lands for you with all those reflections?
Um, yes. So basically, I'm just um, wearing myself out, feeling that way.
Correct. Because essentially, your, let's just say output habits, like your productivity habits,
Mm.
your operational day-to-day habits of like running your business. Okay.
Yes.
Fundamentally, there is a cap on your output because just and like you said, there's 24 hours in a day. Energetically, I can't get to possibly everything. But the fundamental lens through which you're going to view decisions to optimize that is going to be
Mm,
one of I can never possibly achieve enough.
yeah.
So it's like you can read all of the productivity books, you can go through and set up whatever system you want,
Mm,
no matter how successful that system actually is objectively implemented, it's always going to be distorted by this lens of I'm not good enough, right? And you have the evidence of that in the client results and in like the assessment today. So
yes.
like the linchpin towards like the peace that you seek
Mm,
is actually in eliminating all of these limiting patterns around I'm not good enough, right?
yes.
And there's lots of reasons for that, from, shame to ensuring that my sense of well-being and self-worth is tied to, results and achievement.
Mm,
Like all of those are going to play factors in that. But it's like that is the fundamental part of my identity right now
yes.
that paints like 10,000 other decisions and viewpoints
Mm.
beyond that. So I was speaking a lot to you. What's landing there for you?
Yes, it's yeah, that's so true. Because as you said, that's the way I look at everything. And so whatever I do, as you said, it's just not good enough. I just feel that I there's something going on inside. And so it distorts everything that that I'm looking at. For example, I'm going on holiday next week to Portugal. I'm not excited about it because I'm already anxious about finding time to do anything. I know that there are certain things I'm already putting on hold, but then I'm supposed to be on this biking tour. And then I thought, oh, with the time difference, how am I going to find time, to look at my social media accounts, and then, making sure I get all, I answer all the questions that come through and all the emails. And I'm already anxious, and in some part of me almost think, oh, maybe I should not be going away.
Hmm. So even
And
if you look at that through the like lens of what we just spoke about,
mm,
so there's an inherent desire, like when I asked you initially, okay, well, what does control look like for you? How do you define it? It's like, well, okay, well, it's not really about control. It's actually about like I want more peace and calm in how
mm,
I operate. Okay. You literally have time booked out in your calendar for peace and calm because we booked this vacation and we're going to go to it. Right. And what's the first thing that starts freaking out? Those subconscious patterns that are like, no, 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 but like if we legitimately have peace and calm, you got to realize like that's going to go against these inner paradigms that like I'm not good enough and I need to do more. Like I haven't deserved the peace and
mm,
calm that I actually seek. Right. So
yeah,
it goes into this subconscious sabotage mode where it's like, well, maybe you should just not go on vacation. Maybe you should just quit
mm,
it. Like just get more work done. Like probably just post another thing.
yes,
And it
yeah,
sounds silly when we kind of speak about it in open light, but it's
mm,
like this is that frenzy, what I
yes,
call the overwhelmed hamster wheel.
yeah,
This is what's like constantly running through your head on repeat, right? And I'm
yes,
not saying that even as a judgment. It's just like this is what I see with
yes,
clients all the time.
sure.
So what's landing for you when I reflect that back?
Um, that I really need to think about what's important, and how I can put everything in perspective, because I feel that when I actually take a day out, and which I did a few days ago, to go out with friends, and I actually didn't even look at my phone, my emails, and I had a good time. I had a good time.
Of course.
But then afterwards, of course, then I had all these comments I had to reply to, and then I thought, oh boy, that's how I feel, because I feel if I take the time out, all this work is still going to be there, and it's just like putting it on hold.
Correct. So basically, you have the mental and emotional equivalent of restrictive eating,
Yes, yes.
right? I'm going to allow myself or like push myself to like have time off,
Mm-hmm.
but then afterwards, here's this flood of like guilt and shame as to why I did that, right? And then I will overcorrect, reply to all of the things, go into full on work mode, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Like, is that accurate for you? Like, is that
Yes,
landing?
it
Yeah,
does.
it
Yes.
is. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you zoom out, right, like we have a sense of what's at the core pattern that needs to be eliminated here. But if you zoom out, what is this actually costing you? Like, how is this affecting you day to day?
Well, it's not good for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because of that, is affecting my business because I'm not thinking as clearly as I would be. And I'm not focusing on the important things that will help me to get further ahead. Because I want to do everything and I think everything's important, but it can't be.
Mm-hmm.
Some things are more important than the others.
Okay. So if you got more granular with that, okay, what does that actually mean to you? Like, I'm not focusing on important things in my business because I'm not thinking clearly. Okay. So how does that affect your actual business? Like, what arises from that?
Um, it would um, it means I'm not focusing on the things that can expand my business and actually being more diligent about doing those things. I'm spending my energy on doing things which matter a little but not as much.
Okay. So basically, I'm not focusing on things that are actually going to grow my business.
Yeah.
My energy is diluted to things that aren't really that important.
Mm,
So it seems to me like there's a like one of the consequences of this is basically like a ceiling, like a revenue ceiling of like
yes.
if I'm out of the 10 things that I need to do, nine are not actually important. I can't give enough energy to the one thing that is important that would
Yeah.
result in more
Yes.
revenue. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And is that in terms of like launching new offers, selling the same offer? Like what does that look like if you get even more granular?
I actually the other thing I'm looking at is I want to do more speaking and I actually want to focus that more than just coaching one-on-one. And I'm developing that side of the business. And I want to improve my speaking skills. So I need more time to focus on those and less time on and with that I also maybe from the speaking engagements then I would get clients that way as well, but I really want to spread my message to a much larger audience. I feel I have a lot of information to share and a lot of people can do with the help.
Okay. So now the ripple effects of all of this. If I don't have a clear mind and my energy is so diluted by this looping
Mm,
thoughts, I can't focus on the important things that actually move the business forward. But then the opportunity cost of doing all of the unimportant thing is
mm,
actually I don't have enough capacity to dedicate to my big dreams, right?
yes.
The speaking, the
Mm,
spreading my message, which I believe is important, the bigger opportunities that can come from bigger stages, right? So
yes.
it's like the direct impact is essentially revenue ceiling.
Yeah.
The opportunity cost is basically, my dream and bigger things. Kind of like essentially like you have like a revenue ceiling and playing small, not because you want to turtle and kind of like dim your light. That's usually
Hmm.
how it manifests, but not I don't feel it for you. It's more I just don't have the capacity
Yes.
to go all in on the thing that would
Yeah.
really lighten me up. Like, is that all accurate for you?
Very much so. Definitely. Yes. You summed it up, nicely.
Okay. So when you look at everything that we've spoken about, like what do
Mm.
you think then is at the core of those costs? Like what do you think is holding you back from all of those things?
I think it's maybe my limiting belief.
Hmm.
And yeah,
And specifically which one?
um, that I can actually make the other side of my business work, by focusing less on the coaching side.
So tell me a little bit more about that one.
I feel that if I don't make sure the coaching side keeps going, then I lose revenue on that. But at the same time, if I don't develop, if the speaking business doesn't get developed the way I would want it, then the money's not coming in, and then I would just get more anxious. But in the meantime, I know I need time to expand the other side of the business, and it would take time for it to go anywhere. But the time has to go into it.
Correct.
Mm.
So I would actually say that's probably it is a limiting belief, but it's actually like a consequence of all of the other things. Like it is a rationalization of what everything that's going on. And what I mean by that is the reason that my mind has a hard time believing that I can achieve my speaker dreams is
Mm-hmm.
because it feels so overwhelming to even keep up the coaching business as it is.
Yes.
Like there's a good reason why your brain made that limiting belief, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's like, even if you got rid of the belief that it's like possible,
Yeah.
the evidence of your day to day just doesn't support it. And our brain has a very hard time believing things that
Mm.
it can't really find evidence for,
Right.
right?
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the healing of this is fundamentally deeper.
Mm.
It's actually in the identity, right? So when I talk about identity,
Yes.
my working definition is essentially everything that I think, everything that I feel, and everything that I do, right? It's going to
Mm.
create particular results in my life.
Yes.
So my results are perfectly reflective of the identity that I have.
Yeah.
So to give you an example of this, right? And I use this example all the time. Like if I
Mm.
ask you, are you a thief? Like what's your answer?
No, of course not,
Of
because I
course
don't
not.
relate to it.
Exactly.
Mm.
So if I ask you, okay, like do you have trouble not stealing anything?
Do I have trouble? No, don't have any trouble at all, because that's
Right.
not just something I would think of.
Correct. It is a silly thing to think that you are a dishonest,
Mm.
like stealing thief, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because that has nothing to do with your personality or
Uh-huh.
your identity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when you contrast that feeling of like, no, of course not. Why would I steal? Like it's so matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But now when you think about, let's just say prioritizing something, because we started with this,
Yes.
right? How much internal tension comes up with saying, okay, if I have 10 priorities, I got to choose three and then give up seven. Like
Mm.
what's the internal feeling that you feel?
Just very anxious.
Very
Feel like I'm not
anxious.
doing enough if I only prioritize three of them out of 10.
Correct. I'm not doing enough if I only do 3 out of 10. Hence, we go back to that whole
Yeah.
center of like, I'm fundamentally not good enough. Okay.
Yes.
Now, if you contrast that feeling, that anxiousness that builds up just the even thought of doing that,
Mm.
with how matter of fact silly it felt to ask if you're a thief. Okay.
Yeah.
That is because your identity is so aligned with not being a thief that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And your identity is so aligned with I'm not good enough and I can't get everything done that when I ask you to do something different,
Mm.
right away there's this feeling of like, oh no, no, like I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying fundamentally. Like we are never going to do things outside of who we believe we fundamentally are, consciously or not. Just
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have to work to not steal. Like it's not like you have to like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't put myself in environments where I could possibly like I can't go to a store because I'm gonna shoplift. Like it doesn't even cross your mind,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So subconsciously, it doesn't cross your mind that you could possibly do three things and be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
why it's going against this fundamental identity of like I'm not good enough if I only do three priorities. Even though
Right.
I objectively understand that that's actually how priorities work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before I
Mm-hmm.
even go on, like does that like how does that land for you? What lands for you from that?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I definitely understand that. So I have to change the lens I look through things.
that's part of it, right? So if we,
Mm,
like I said, the working definition of identity is like, what is it I think, what is it I feel, and what is it that I
mm,
do?
yeah.
So the changing the lens is basically changing the lens through which I view things, right?
Yes.
Like that's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
Now, where it gets tricky is even when I so suggest, okay, well, objectively speaking,
Mm,
having three priorities is actually prioritizing. It's not 10, that you can't have 10 priorities, otherwise it wouldn't be priorities. As soon as you begin to think that way, so I changing the mental station that I'm trying to operate
mm,
from, I'm trying to put different glasses with which I view
mm,
the world. The first thing that pops up in your body is anxiousness.
yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that's an indicator that my subconscious, and to me, that to me is like the nervous system, right? So that's why you felt that feeling. So subconsciously, you still harbor the belief that it's not safe to do
Mm,
that,
yes.
right? And this is often the trick that very smart people get into when they try to do this work is they will go to their gifts of being smart, figuring things out, okay,
Mm,
being able to learn, right, which was one of the big ones on your assessment.
yeah.
Like I'll be able to figure things out if I just know enough, if I just have enough awareness.
Yeah.
Yes, that's part of it, but your issue is actually not with your strength, which is a mental strength. It's
Mm,
actually with your emotions,
yeah.
right? Because if you
Hmm.
didn't have that anxiety when thinking about your priorities, you wouldn't even be here because you would be smart enough and like, okay, so I just need priorities. Cool. Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your real healing of that fundamental identity piece, if I'm not good enough, is actually going to come from healing those subconscious emotions.
Mm,
Okay.
yes.
So what all lands with you around all of that?
And yes, it's about my emotions, about how I feel. It's really coming from the heart. And so I need to um, give myself more credits. I have to keep reminding myself that, I've been doing a lot and um, I'm not, I'm just not letting myself down.
Correct. And those things would
Mm,
go under the nurture category of the behaviors, right? So if
yes.
we go back to the identity piece, okay, so what I think, feel, and act. So
Yes.
you understand, okay, this is the lens through which I have to change my thinking.
Yes.
There are behaviors that I can do, like remind myself of all the things that I'm
Yeah.
doing, keep
Mm,
gratitude lists, et cetera, et cetera.
yes.
All that's great. And you can think of these like a triangle. So you got like two pieces of the triangle
Mm,
that are effectively like you can do something about.
yeah.
Again, the hard part in owning it is going to be the emotion that's going to reject that, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mm,
as soon as you begin to like celebrate yourself, what did you say? Feels good for a little bit, and then I
yeah.
go right back to the thing, right?
Right.
Because again, subconsciously, that emotion of like, no, but it's not true,
Mm,
it'll pull you back, right? That's kind of what I'm saying with,
yeah.
especially with smart people, generally their issue lies in not having the skill set
Mm,
to heal the emotional parts of their identity
mm,
while they have more than enough capability to handle the mental and behavioral aspects of it, especially someone like you who knows habit change.
yes.
So again,
Yeah.
what lands with all of that?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's all about the emotions and it's not the logics, it's not the radical thinking. And yeah, it's gone on for so long. So the emotions are, from time to time, even when I'm trying to fight it, would come back. And I just have to make it a habit of feeling good about myself, about giving myself a pat on the back when something's happened. Um, and just keep that lens on, to see things in a very different way.
Correct. That's going to be part of it. And really the ultimate place you want to go to. Like if your goal is the peace and the calm,
Mm,
the ideal place you want to get to is I can experience peace and calm the same way that I can experience not being a thief.
yes.
Like that state of, yeah, of course. Why would I be stressed out on vacation? Like I'm going on vacation, everything's taken care of, I'm good.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. That is when you know you have fundamentally made a identity shift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to let you know right now, like that sentiment of like if I just repeat something like long enough,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that can't work. I've just found it to be the most arduous and slowest path
yeah.
towards getting there,
Mm-hmm.
right? To me, the fastest path has always been, okay, let's connect to the root on a subconscious level,
Mm,
figure out what are the actual subconscious beliefs around this. What is the wounding and the patterning that caused this paradigm that I'm fundamentally not good enough?
mm,
Right? So we can heal your past so it stops sabotaging your present. When you can
mm,
discharge that anxiety and turn it into peace,
mm-hmm.
that's when you can complete that full triangle of like
Right.
the thinking, feeling, and acting. And you can get to that state where it's the equivalent of, yeah, of course, I feel calm and at peace when I'm on vacation or making decisions. Like,
Uh-huh.
why would I want to operate business any different way? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what lands for you with that?
It's really the yeah, to actually go inside and feel more that way about why, all these emotions keep coming back, you know, and and to understand where they come from in the first place.
Correct. That's always the fastest path to it. So, if we change gears a little bit
Mm,
and like, you wave a magic wand and you
mm,
suddenly lost the ability to think that you're not good enough. Okay,
yeah.
who are you beyond that?
That I'm someone, who's able to keep everything in check, and I'm making, my business in check and going forward with and achieving, moving things forward and actually getting to the way I want my business to be and to have different parts of, um, you know, coaching, speaking, workshops, but all, proportionately. So, none of it is actually, none of it suffers because of the other side that's going, that I'm spending time on.
Meaning like none of it suffers because you're trying to cope with all of the
Yeah,
inner overwhelm and negativity.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So in that note, if you zoomed out or rather zoomed in a little bit more to that, like how would you feel operating your business if you fundamentally believed you were good enough?
Um, Satisfied, at peace, and fulfilled.
Okay. So,
And not anxious or overwhelmed at all.
okay.
Just calm, basically.
So basically, I would be satisfied and fulfilled coaching, speaking, doing workshops, and basically
Mm.
creating from a space of inspiration, not
Yes.
like the desperation of I got to get things done, but I can never get
Yeah,
everything done. Okay,
exactly. Aspiration. Yeah. Yeah,
correct.
that's right. Mhm.
I mean, that sounds pretty good. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because desperation is not a good word.
yeah. And the reason why I make that joking comment is just, it's kind of like, are you allowing yourself to actually even preview what life could be like on the
Yes,
other
I am.
side? You are. Okay.
Yeah,
And how are you
definitely.
feeling inside?
Yeah,
Mm,
very good. Yes, excellent.
okay.
Yes,
Good.
definitely. Very satisfying and then giving myself some peace, so mentally, and I'm sure that that will have an effect on me physically as well, because I know all this stress is not doing me any good, even though I take care of other parts of my health, but this has an impact.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
of
you can
course,
eat all of the things that are the right things to eat, but the stress is also going to be a factor to it. Yeah.
exactly. And that's another reason why I'm anxious, because I'm aware of the harm it's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. As that, as somebody who's gone through burnout twice, especially when I had my
Mhm.
studio and all of that,
Oh yeah.
it's not something that I wish on anybody because it's not a fun state to be in. So
No,
as I
no.
told you even before we started recording, like the fact that you are here, doing this proactively is like
Yeah.
such a big thing to celebrate because I oftentimes get clients that are on the other end of it where we have to
Mm.
dig ourselves out of the hole and then learn all of these things and heal all of these things. So I just want to acknowledge and celebrate you for that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
Um, okay. So do you feel like you have a good mapping of kind of what are the
Mm.
biggest roadblocks for you
Oh,
right
yeah,
now?
definitely. I mean,
Okay.
this conversation has been really helpful. I never thought about it that way. It's something to do with all my emotions, you know, and and the whole, I mean, the core of it is that I have this feeling of not being good enough.
Correct. Beautiful. Yeah. I'm glad that that's all landing for you. So
Yes.
if that feels like I understand this better, is it okay if we move into a close? Or is there still
Absolutely.
something?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, really, for having this conversation. It's so
You're very
helpful.
welcome. You're very welcome. So yeah, in that case, floor is yours. Let everybody know, where to find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Yeah. So the name is Tess Cheng, and my website is Glow with Tess with one W. Is GLOWITHTESS.com. If you feel that you benefit from some support on your health journeys by building some sustainable habits, I'm here to support you. And it's really helpful sometimes, especially with accountability, rather than trying to figure those things out on your own. Thank you.
Love it. As always, we will include all of that in the show notes. But Tess, thank you very much for coming on and allowing yourself to be witnessed in this way. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.